Hi, teachers. I would like to go over the comprehension in wonders over the span of a week and talk about what to omit, what to keep, and what we can spread out over several days in order to get the biggest bang for our buck. These are some of the things that we talked about with Sarah during her visit, and also things that Callie and I worked on when we put together our comprehension vocabulary document. So hopefully this will just kind of be a little walkthrough for you. Second grade years is pretty heavy, so I'm going to try and go as fast as I can while doing justice to all of the content that is in here. So just to get started, I am in second grade and I am on Unit 5, Week 5, just to kind of, if you want to walk along with me. So to start off with, we are always going to start off with introducing the essential question, especially on that day one. So we're going to build the background, introduce the essential question. You can do that either using your books, or you can use the digital presentation. That one works great too. There's always going to be a graphic organizer. You can do that whole group. Don't worry about every kid doing one. You can do that whole group as a part of your discussion. What we are going to start skipping second grade, if you don't have time, which probably you don't, is the oral language and interactive read aloud. So we're going to start with essential question. You can go through this, do lots of partner talk, turn and tell your partner. Skip. Some of you love the read aloud cards. If you do and you have time, go for it. Otherwise, you can do read alouds throughout your day in other ways, such as reading a chapter book, reading trade books. You can always think about your strategy that you're going to be using this week and model that during your read alouds. But you do not need to use these cards. And because we're not using these cards, you do not need the oral vocabulary. So this is what we are letting go of. Let go of this, which means introduce the essential question, and then you go right into your word work. Word work is kind of a beast on Monday anyway, so hopefully that gives you a little bit more space and time to get that in. Yes, you are going to do these vocabulary words. These are the words that we are finding in the text. So your students do need access to these vocabulary words. So please do the routine with these. Kids can follow along in their own books, or you can just do it as is. That will lead you right into your actual close reading passage for the day. So on Monday, you are going to be using your reading writing workshop book, your little book, if you will, and you are going to be reading your short story. As you do this, really focus on your skill and your strategy of the week. Notice these tabs here. The red says read, the green says reread, the blue says integrate. Most of the red tab is what we're going to hit today. We're going to hit the green tab tomorrow. This is a close read, so we're going to dive back into the text tomorrow. So today, we are going to connect to the concept. Again, you're going to build our background knowledge. This is the part that Wonders is a little bit weak in. So make sure you kind of ask, what do you know about America's history? What do you know about the Liberty Bell? Turn and tell your partner about a rule that our country has, okay? And kind of build that background knowledge together. And then you are just going to do what it says. Now, it does say note taking. There's not always a lot of guidance as far as what notes students need to take. So you kind of get to do that. Do you want to use sticky notes? Do you want to just model? Do you want to use a graphic organizer? If there's not a lot of guidance, then you go ahead and do that. But we're thinking about the essential question. Key IDs and details is what we're almost always taking note of. So maybe do just give them a sticky note and model that first, oh, this is an important detail. I'm going to pop my sticky there and summarize it in a sentence. That's up to you. But basically for Monday, we're going to read the story. You're reading to your students. They're listening. You can go back to certain paragraphs and they can read with you if you'd like that added part. Always connecting to the essential question, turn and talk at the end. Monday should be pretty short and sweet though. That gets you into day 2 or Tuesday. Introduce the essential question, skip. Goes into word work, do all that as is. And it has your vocabulary option here. Yes, we're going to do that with your vocabulary words too. That brings you to comprehension day 2, Monday or Tuesday. So you're going to reread the story that you read on Monday, really focusing on your skill and your strategy. Now, here's something to think about. Teachers, be looking ahead, because this does make predictions, which to me makes no sense to do after we just read the story. So if you're looking ahead, you would be able to make predictions on Monday, on day 1, right? Let's stop and make a prediction. Well, now we don't have to do that on day 2. So feel free to move these around to where they make more sense. To me, it does not make sense to make predictions after you've read the story. That's why it's really important to look at the whole week as you're planning and kind of put that in your notes and in your tabs. I'd put a sticky note here, make predictions. However, that being said, your main skills here are predictions. Our comprehension strategy is predictions. Our skill is cause and effect. So that's what I'm going to focus on today. I am going to, again, review with my background knowledge. What did we read about yesterday? What did you learn? And remind them what a prediction is. Remember, yesterday we made predictions and then we confirmed them. I'm going to use text evidence to make sure that I'm understanding. So here's where you can go in and say, remember yesterday I made a prediction that the Chang family was going to learn about the past. I confirmed my prediction with this paragraph. So everyone go into your text, read. Here we go. Have partners turn and talk. What did you predict? Was it confirmed, or did they need to revise their thinking? You could do this day 1. We're really going to focus on our comprehension skill, which is cause and effect. So this is one that I would go back into the text. I would read the whole story together, and then I would be bringing in this cause and effect here. Okay, and here it gives you, don't worry about your writing, but it's going to give you the steps that you need to try and get to cause and effect. You can use their books here, or you can just use this as a model for you to do. But we're going to read the story and input cause and effect and input the genre. Okay, the story that we read was informational text. Here's why. Okay, ideally, I think what I would do and what I did when I modeled those is I talked about the genre first. I talked about the comprehension skill first, and then I reread the story. So it's almost working backwards. I'm going to talk about it, I'm going to reread the story, and then I'm going to circle back and say, how did we do that within our reading? So this is kind of a teacher choice here where you are making enhancements to the curriculum to make sure that it makes sense for your learners. This is day 2. Basically, it's a reread with intention. What are you working on? Okay. They're good for day 2. Day 3. Day 3 starts the same as every other. Introduce, skip. Now, this little symbol here means review. It's got a little spiral. I would think about, okay, we are going to be talking about sequence. I am going to do that in my next story here. Okay, I'm not going to do a whole separate lesson where we reread yesterday's story one more time. That's what this says to do. I'm not going to do that because I don't have time. So I'm going to be thinking as a teacher, I'm going to talk about sequence. Going to word work. I am going to also be talking about pronunciation because that's part of fluency. I'm not going to do a whole separate passage for this. You can do that in your small groups, and you can also put that into centers. But as a teacher, I'm just going to make a note about pronunciation, and I'm going to make a note about sequencing. And I'm going to make sure and do that with our story here, our longer story on day 3. So in day 3, you are just going to introduce essential question, phonics, word work, into the story. Okay? Always build the background knowledge. Look at the picture. What do you know about this? What do you know about these people? What do you know about the history of America? Introduce the background, turn and talk. Then again, I want to point out these tabs. Red is read, green is reread, blue is integrate. Theoretically, in a perfect world, we would do all of the red tabs on Wednesday and all of the green and blue tabs on Thursday. That's not always the case, though, because these stories are getting very long. So instead, what I'm going to say is focus on this, supplement with this. This is our most important tab. We are going to be working on key details, and we are going to be working on our skill and strategy, make, confirm, and revise predictions, and cause and effect. Every time I see those within the text, I am stopping. When I see other little things like this, I am going to make a teacher game time decision. Is this authentic in my teaching, or can it be saved for a later time? Okay. We've already covered this. It's spirals. So this is a bit of a review. This is what we are hitting hard this week. So, background knowledge, it says note taking. You can pull your graphic organizer whole group. This gives you just a little bit more background knowledge if you need that. Okay. As you're reading, note the numbers. That's where you stop and address. Okay. So before we even read, we're going to make a prediction. I'm going to talk about cause and effect. Okay. We read, we stop, talk about cause and effect. Stop and check. Did you confirm your prediction? Do we need to revise our thinking? I'm not going to worry about this right now because I don't have time. Keep going. We are reading. We are reading. You're looking at this red section, cause and effect. Oh, here's my graphic organizer. Every time I see my graphic organizer, I'm going to address it. I've got text features here. This is important, sure, but I'm going to do that if I have time. Okay? So that's something that I'm going to come back to. So because your day 3 text can be very long, you can either move this into day 4 or you can reread on day 4. So if you only get halfway through the text on Wednesday, that's fine. You're going to finish it on Thursday. If you get all the way through the text on Wednesday, excellent. Day 4, Thursday, you're going to really hit these green ones and review the red ones. Okay, we didn't talk much about text features, so I'm going to dig into that on day 4. I'm also going to focus on my retell, maybe analyzing. I would move your write about the text into a center. There's your writing prompt for the day. Always have kids make connections at the end of the story. Have them find text evidence to support their conclusions. But the moral of the story with day 3 is it is now day 3/4. All right. Day 1, you do all the read tabs. Day 2, you do the reread tabs. Or you get really deep into it, but only halfway through, and you finish on day 4. I hope that makes sense. So that means day 4 we've covered. It's going to be finishing that story. This says day 4. We are moving day 4 story into day 5. You are now doing this on Friday. Introduce the essential question, build some background knowledge into your word work, talk about your fluency. We're going to model this as we read out loud today. You're not going to reread, you're just going to model. You can practice this piece at small groups or in centers. That would be a perfect place to do that. We're going to talk about this, but notice it's a review. Okay, so we're going to hit our context clues during our story time. Which brings us to story time. It's the short story in your literature anthology that follows your long story. It's going to connect all of the texts of the week together. So we start off by building background knowledge. It's not always in there, but it's got a little section here. Turn and talk, tell your partner what you know. Then you are going to read. You are going to talk about your strategy and your skill that you've been hitting all week long, and you're going to tie it into this. To me, I would talk about it, read it, come back to it. Okay? But you as a teacher need to kind of decide how that's going to go and what makes the most sense for you. If you have time, you would retell. That's always there. It's really good. Turn and tell your partner about the story. It's short and sweet. Always make connections at the end. Always get the kids together and say, we read these 3 stories this week. I want you all to, in a group, talk about what each story taught us about the essential question. What did each story have in common? How are they the same? How are they different? They can use their text for text evidence. That would be really helpful. So, Monday, reading writing workshop. Tuesday, reading writing workshop. Wednesday, literature anthology. Thursday, literature anthology, finish the story. Friday, literature anthology with a connected text. I'm calling this connected text because you're connecting it to all the other stories. Friday, so that's your Friday now. That's why there's nothing in Friday, because we're spanning that over the course of a week. So I know that was a lot and kind of fast and furious. So if you have questions or would like something modeled, please reach out and let me know. And I would love to try one of these lessons in your class. Thanks for hanging with me. I know that it's a lot. So great job, and we'll chat soon.